Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to make a quick video to talk about the prospect showdown that just happened this past Saturday and Sunday. First of all, I wanted to say that it was definitely exciting to see hockey in the Bell Center for the first time in months. I think the summer can be super long with the lack of hockey that we get to actually see during that time, and God knows I am not watching baseball, so it was good to see some hockey back on the ice. So that was fun to start. But yeah, obviously the Canadians lost both games, but obviously it's just a prospect showdown, so it doesn't really matter what the score was. I think what we can really do is focus on some of the performances of some of the players. First of all, the performance of the fans is not unnoticed. It was definitely cool to see. Obviously, I wasn't there, being in the United States, but it was cool to see like a full building at the Bell Center for like a preseason game, and I think that that's just one of the many reasons why like Canadians fans are just the best in the league. So it's really cool to see, and I feel like from the perspective of the prospects, the guys playing in that game, they definitely appreciated having that support for a game like that, whereas I don't think that other prospects would have gotten that same treatment. So it was definitely really cool. But yeah, moving on to the player performances, obviously we have to talk about Demidov. Obviously he only played one game, but man, did it really look like he was just like playing with his food out there. Like there was just, in my biased but really objective opinion, there was nobody even close to the skill level that he was displaying in that game. I mean, he had an assist on the first two goals and then scored that last one late in the game. And like I just like none of the other prospects on the Canadian side could generate anything without him being on the ice. But just every time Demidov stepped on the ice, it looked like something was going to happen, and he contributed all three of the goals. So yeah, I think if he even needed any more convincing for if he's going to make the team or if he's going to be a solid player in the NHL, I think that was all you needed to see there. So it was definitely cool to see. I also think it is definitely a wise choice to have not played him, as much as I would have liked to see him play again, but it was good to have him not play in that game against the Leafs, which turned out to be a pretty chippy game. There was a bunch of fights in that game and stuff like that. So I think it was definitely a wise choice by whoever was in charge of making that decision, Ken Hughes or whoever, to keep him out of that game, because we know what happens when you play star players in a preseason game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, with Reinbacher and Patrick Laine getting injured last year in that same situation. So yeah, I think it was definitely smart to keep him out of that lineup. But even from the one game that we got to see of Demidov, it was definitely spectacular. Outside of that, David Reinbacher, obviously the other pretty big prospect for the Canadians playing that game. I thought he played pretty solid. Obviously, like you can look back at it and see the one goal that Winnipeg scored, that he kind of got walked on that one. But shit like that happens to any defenseman in the league, especially young defensemen. And it was kind of a broken play anyway, where they were kind of rushing up quick. It was right after another goal that was scored there. So that's tough. But yeah, generally speaking, I thought he played pretty solid. He looked like a pretty solid guy out there. He looked big, made some good exits and that kind of thing in our defensive zone, had some good chances offensively, just like making smart plays from the point. So I thought that was good. I think generally speaking, those two games kind of confirmed what I had already thought, that he was probably going to play in the AHL to start the season. And I think that that's definitely the smartest move for him. I think that he can definitely use a year in the AHL, hopefully a healthy year in the AHL, to kind of just like hone his game a little bit more. And then, especially considering how deep we are defensively at this point in the NHL roster, I think he's definitely going to be somebody who would benefit from having first pair minutes in the AHL to kind of just hone his craft a little bit and become the guy that we're all hoping he can be. But he definitely did show flashes in those two games there that he can definitely be a really solid player for us. And I think a lot of people are looking at Reinbacher and expecting to see kind of the same sort of spectacle that we see from Ivan Demidov, but I think it's, like they're completely different players. And even like separating him from Lane Hudson, like I just don't see Reinbacher being the guy who's going to be making flashy plays. I think Reinbacher, like what we can hope from him is for him to be a guy who can just kind of just be a solid guy back there and just be a shutdown D-man. I've seen people kind of comparing him to like an Alex Pietrangelo or something like that. And, if we can get David Reinbacher to be like a young Alex Pietrangelo, then we've definitely hit on him. So I think with guys like them, like defensemen for sure, but also with him and his injuries, I think we're just going to have to be patient with him and see to see where he goes. But I think the ceiling is still pretty high for what he can be, just not necessarily, in terms of like wowing offensive plays or anything like that. I also want to talk a little bit about Owen Protz. He laid some huge hits in those first two games, especially the first game, but he was definitely standing out in terms of the physicality he was able to bring to that team. I think everybody on the Canadiens team got outclassed physically by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, like our fights or whatever were fine, but I think, and to be expected, I think everybody on that Toronto Maple Leaf prospect team was, laying body and doing that kind of thing because, Toronto doesn't necessarily have the same sort of skill level in their prospect pool being, not having drafted high or at all in the last, few years. So, but he definitely brought that kind of energy. He laid some huge hits, and it's kind of exciting to have a player in our like prospect pool who can kind of bring that energy, kind of like Romanov used to be able to do for us back in the past like couple of years ago, and Arbor Jackeye being able to do that. So it's exciting to have another guy in our pipeline who, if he pans out, can be somebody who can turn the tide physically for us. Jacob Fowler in the net, he played half of both games, so that kind of didn't really help us in terms of winning our games there because he had to split time with some of our other goaltenders. But I think that when he did play, he was definitely solid. I don't think he let in a goal in the first game, and then he let in two in the second one. But the first one that he let in against Toronto was kind of just like a weird, like he just didn't expect that shot to come at him. So, but I think generally speaking, he was definitely solid. He stopped a couple like breakaway or high scoring chance situations. So he looked really solid in there. I think it'll be interesting to see how he plays in the training camp leading into the season. See how he plays comparatively to Jakub Dobeš and Kakinen, as I talked about in the last video, seeing who's going to make the team, that kind of stuff. But he definitely put up a solid performance there. I also thought that all three of the goalies that were in those games, Fowler and also it was DeVicentis for Winnipeg and then Peksa for Toronto. I thought both of their goalies on the other teams that we played against were definitely playing really solid. They stopped a lot of really high scoring opportunities that we were able to put on, and I think that definitely played a role in us losing both of those games. So I just thought that was something to note. I thought other guys that kind of played on kind of like the top six there, like Florian Jackeye, Oliver Kapanen, those guys both looked pretty good in their games. I think both of them were definitely elevated by the play of Demidov, as I said before, especially Florian Jackeye, like getting that goal and stuff like that. Demidov doing a lot of the heavy lifting to get that to work. But I thought both of those guys looked really good. Kapanen especially looked like he was NHL ready. I think he picked off right where he left off in the last season. So it was good to see those guys playing pretty well. It'll be interesting to see how they perform into the training camp. Kind of like, that's kind of the story with all of these guys. But I personally think I predicted in the last video that Kapanen is going to make the team and play on our fourth line. I think that those two games kind of proved my point there. I think that he played really well. Jackeye, I think, probably needs some more time, but I think he did play really well, especially with Demidov, and I thought there was a bit of a chemistry between the two of them that could be interesting to look at going into the coming years. But yeah, outside of those main guys, I thought a couple other guys had a pretty good couple of games, like Vincenz Rohr, who was somebody I talked about as like kind of like a sleeper pick to make the roster. I don't know if his performance really proved my point on that one, but he did have a couple nice plays that I thought were pretty good. Showed that he was kind of a little bit above the rest. Owen Beck had some nice plays as well. He's another guy that I think we're just gonna have to wait and see on, just like let him develop in the AHL, that kind of thing. And then Engstrom on defense, he definitely looked like a solid player as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But especially with defensemen, I think we're really deep in that position, even with getting rid of a guy like Mayu last year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But yeah, we had definitely some solid players, especially those guys. But I think generally speaking, those guys are all gonna end up in the AHL, which is a good thing. I think that it'll be good to have another competitive team in Laval and let those guys develop. But yeah, overall, I thought the showcase was really fun. As a viewer, just to like watch, hockey again, see a Canadiens jersey on the ice for the first time in a while. But yeah, I thought it was good to like watch our prospects and see kind of where they are. I think Demidov obviously, worth the price of admission, worth turning the stream on a Saturday. So that was exciting. I also thought it was kind of neat to see like our first look at what the new center ice logo was. I think that's kind of a minor thing, but it was the first time we'd actually see it play out in a game. I'm still kind of, on the fence about what I feel about it, but I think it's definitely less like jarring, less bright than how it looked in their original like post when they revealed it. So I think that makes me feel a little bit better about how it's gonna look. But generally speaking, it's not a huge thing. It's just kind of an interesting thing to like switch it up a little bit, and I think it looks kind of neat. So that's kind of all in terms of like new news and stuff like that. So we're looking forward to training camp. I know the Canadiens players are currently at like their golf outing or whatever today, end of this week. So it means the season is coming up. So that's exciting. I know Hudson at the golf tournament made a comment on, kind of coming back to what his father had said that we talked about in a past video, where he said that he's only playing for America. He's an American player. So I think that was probably good of him to come back and be like, hold on, kind of quell those those rumors that his dad was spreading around, and hopefully he was able to talk to him and kind of say, hey, maybe let me handle the press from now on, especially on the Team USA topic. So that was probably good that he was able to clear that up a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of everything that's gone on in the past couple of days. So now we're just kind of waiting for training camp to start and the regular preseason and regular season to start. I hope you guys will stick around and follow me for when those things come around. I'll be covering all the games as soon as they start in the preseason all the way through the regular season. So I'm excited to get that started. I can feel it, in the air. Hockey season is finally coming back, so I'm really looking forward to that. So, but yeah, for now, that's all for me. So I appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you in the next one.